Hello, welcome. Welcome to the 8th edition of the SPT Social Presence in Theater Speaker Series. And today we have Michelle Moore with us. Thank you, Michelle, for coming. So Michelle is from Canada. She lives in Toronto. And she is a SPT practitioner. And about a couple of months ago, she was made a teacher, social presence in theater teacher, to teach basic programs. So that is fantastic. She joined the group of teachers. And she also works in management, is a management consultant, and she works at the intersection of people and technology. So she uses SPT in her work with organizations, and so that's why she's here. She's going to tell us a little bit about her work and how she does it and what are some of the results. She also writes about this, so she's writing blogs and she's, gathering material for a book as well. So I'm going to let her tell us more about it, and I think she has some videos as well to show us. So thank you, Michelle. Take it over from here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you. Some familiar faces too. Hey, Annie. So I was part of cohort 4 and with Annie. Annie was in my cohort. And this case that I'm going to share with you today arose because of another colleague in cohort 4. And that colleague is Joan O'Donnell from Dublin. So Joan O'Donnell was at the time working for the Disability Federation of Ireland. So they became my client. Joan said, I can't facilitate SPT in my own organization. I need to bring in an outside neutral person, right? And she said, Michelle, do you want to do it? I said, of course I want to do it. So that was last summer. So the background to this, so of course you had an insider in the organization quite close to leadership, Joan, who saw the opportunity to enable a different type of dialogue to emerge. So the Disability Federation of Ireland is focused specifically on the grave problem that many, many people who have a disability live in poverty. And in Ireland, and maybe all over the world, the same problem exists, but at any rate, in Ireland, this problem is exacerbated because the organizations working on the problem of disability and organizations working on the problem of poverty are very siloed, and they're just not working together. So the Disability Federation of Ireland, and with Joan's idea, wanted to convene this diverse group of people who care about these two issues together, but they really don't work together on a normal basis. Some of them knew each other, some of them didn't. So they brought the silos together for a one-day SPT workshop. So without further ado, a video was made of this. So I'm actually narrating the video, so you'll hear my voice. And what I'll do is I'll first show you, so what the way the day was structured, so the part that you won't see. The first half of the day was structured with the typical, getting into the body exercises. So we did village. We started, of course, with a sitting meditation after introductions. We did a village, and then we did individual stucks. And that brought us up to lunch. And the individual stucks were very, very moving, even caused some tears. And the other key component that these people had not experienced was a full day of device-free workshop. So they agreed to this idea, let's have a meeting design or a workshop design be completely device-free, even during the breaks. So just have the phone gone, and so that you can continue to reflect, et cetera, et cetera. So they agreed to this. They were nervous about it, but they agreed. So that was huge. And also unusual was a meeting with no tables. So of course, we're used to this. We set up a circle of chairs and we don't have tables in the room. So also there were no tables. So two design principles for a meeting that sounds so simple, but even just removing tables and devices has such a profound impact on the quality of dialogue and the ability to have generative dialogue that it's just, I'm always blown away when I'm able to do that, which is not that often, unfortunately, but anyway, I always try. So that we did that. And I think and then in the afternoon, we did 4D mapping. around the ecosystem of poverty and disability in Ireland. So I think if I show you now the 4D map, my narration will explain further the stock we were working with, etc. And then you can, of course, ask questions after. So this 4D map, it's a short 4-minute video, and I'll immediately follow the video with a 2-minute video, a second video, where participants who wanted to share their feedback on camera have mini interviews, and that's only 2 minutes. And then after that, we can just go to questions. Does that sound okay?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay.
Great. Let me just maximize this video screen and share screen with you. Okay. So you should be able to see that. Can everyone see the screen? Okay. No.
Yes, I can see it. I guess everybody else.
Exercise called 4D mapping. It is also referred to as the ecosystem study. This is a mindful embodiment and sensing exercise which makes visible the current reality and the emerging future of a system. A diverse group of stakeholders working in disability and poverty in Ireland gathered to model their ecosystem stuck, which was articulated as the attitude towards poverty amongst people with disabilities in Ireland is one of acceptance. Observers sit in a circle holding a safe space for the system stakeholders to model the ecosystem stuck. Stakeholders place themselves in the system, mindful of proximity, distance, and level, and allow a gesture to arise that represents their felt sense of the ecosystem stuck. You now see the stakeholders entering the circle one by one. These stakeholders were defined before the session. Once all stakeholders have entered the circle, they adjust themselves by sensing the other stakeholders in the field. Then the current reality of the system stuck has arrived. Sculpture 1 is held. This is the moment of presencing, being present in the current reality and leaning into the stuck and allowing the future of the system to emerge. Each stakeholder leans into the stuck and allows the body to move into its future state. Each stakeholder makes a statement from the I voice, articulating how they feel in the emerging future. An extensive debrief on stakeholder and observer insights follows, resulting in ideas for prototypes. Then participants prioritize ideas to pilot together.
I'm just excited about what happened today, you know.
I saw people move in a way that I hadn't expected. I am surprised by the creative process.
The ideas, just the whole process.
I was very nervous about having a device-free day.
You don't have mobile phones in the room. You got disconnect and bringing it back to the being of the present. I thought that was really refreshing.
I was very nervous about being asked to spend the breaks in silence. I really enjoyed the silence. I think it provided space to be, and it certainly provoked a lot of interest about how people could take this forward and be brave and bold about asking for this.
I learned a lot of me preconceived ideas are gone. They're not. You don't add up.
I am a shy, retiring person, and I'm surprised at how free I felt. I was willing to engage and speak out like I wouldn't normally.
I wasn't thinking about myself. I was thinking about the bigger thing, the collective, and I was listening. I was really listening to what happened.
I felt that it was great to be able to connect with other people.
What I learned from doing today was the value of layering the different practices on each other. I think I was surprised at how useful it was to reflect on the work that I do and think about different issues differently.
This today was really, really insightful, you know. It's going to stop me retracting a lot of the a lot of the thinking and talking.
And I also want to express gratitude to the Disability Federation of Ireland and to Michelle Moore, who very graciously hosted this meeting.
Okay, questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing that. So yeah, this was wonderful. So we have until 10 to the hour with Michelle because she needs to go in Toronto, drive different like long distances. So she needs a little more time. So so we can engage now. We have a good half an hour of conversation. Any question or comment that arose from watching this video, please go ahead.
I can I? Hello, Michelle. First of all, congratulations for your work, especially with these people with disabilities. I'm really fond of that issue. And how did you feel? Did you feel nervous? Because I have experience facilitating this kind of practice. For the last u.lab session, and in my case, I was so trying to film everything and trying to make everybody understand the dynamic of the work. So how did you manage all that? Because I think that especially with this group and this case, it was very like challenging, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I think what really helped decrease nervous, of course, butterflies in the stomach all the time, right? That is for sure. But having this partner and friend in the room who actually, brought me there. I was the only outsider. Everyone sort of was more the insider. So I had that outsider perspective. So I think Joan was 10 times more nervous than I was because she was risking. She was the one that had prepped the field. She had done the interviews. She had surfaced that terrible stuck, right? that there's acceptance in Ireland of people with disabilities living in poverty. There's just acceptance. That is a very embarrassing stuck. And we even had a situation in the morning. There was one government person in the room, and he thought this work was stupid. And he said so. He said, this body stuff is stupid. I don't see where it's getting to. This was before lunch. And so, of course, during lunch, Joan and I were made nervous also by this person, but she said, he's always that way, and let's just, let him be. He ended up being the advocate in the 40 map. He ended up embodying that role, and he was the gentleman in the white shirt with his back to the camera, thank goodness, because otherwise it would have taken me probably forever to get release to show this video, which I only got like 2 weeks ago. So it took a year to get DFI to say, yes, it's okay to show it publicly. So that, I think you can always expect to have one person in the room at least who either in their head or out loud is thinking to themselves, I don't like this, it makes me uncomfortable, or I think this is stupid. And we hold space for that and focus on the ones who are really engaged and without ignoring that person. So in this case, that was the first time anybody had sort of been in my face about it. And he said it to Joan, not to me. And so that was, then we had to remember Arowanna's voice of just be back in your practice, just be back in your feet, connect to the earth, and you're doing a good thing for this group and holding space for this group. So just let go of the one person who has an anti mindset and see if you can bring them around. And I don't know what he thought at the end of the day. He didn't share, but he didn't leave. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I would say always do these in partnership with someone who is your partner in crime, so to speak, because it makes it way easier.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Florencia, for your question. So let's try to see if we say our names and where we are. So we have also a little bit more awareness of the the bigness of this group, because there's from all over the world in this room. Maria Florencia is in Buenos Aires, Argentina at this point. So great, fantastic. Anybody else, comments or questions? What brought up for you to watch this video? Yeah, Christine.
So I enjoyed the last discussion about the difficult person, because I noticed and I had noticed early on in the video that there was the red-haired woman was falling asleep. And it's like, my question is, how do you focus on how do you keep from focusing on the problems, and focus on doing it? I know it's, intellectually, I know that those who don't engage are probably very fearful, you know what I mean? But it sure is hard to deal with it as a facilitator to keep going and not feel like a failure, right?
The woman who fell asleep we had several people in the room with real disabilities and with experience of living in poverty. So there was the most vulnerable stakeholder was at least 3 or 4 people were there. Especially in the morning, there were more people, but even in the 40 map, there were still 3 people with a disability present, and she has the most severe disability. So I think intellectually, she did not understand really at all what was going on. So she had difficulty. So that's why that one was it was just what it was, right? But I'll share one of the big learnings from this session. When I first saw the rough cut of the video, I noticed that people were sitting like this, slumped over in the chair. I neglected to give a really important instruction, which is about how observers are encouraged to hold space.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And because I forgot that instruction, even Joan was like this, right? Like, 'cause she was all nervous, and so I didn't have people uncross their legs or ground. I didn't pay enough attention at the beginning to the observers. So that was a huge learning, and it's so obvious when you see the video that, yeah, the holding of the space by the observers was not ideal. So, yeah.
Well, I thought it was fabulous. You know, I thought you did a fantastic job. So congratulations.
Well, and I think that goes to show the power of the process and the power of yours and Joan's presence in holding the space, that despite having it be, you know, perfect, you had a great outcome. People were engaged. I do have a question. So I'm Shannon. I'm from Wisconsin in the US. I'm curious about how people were prepped. You know, you talked about doing interviews. Were they also prepped on the body stuff and the movement, or did they come into that cold for the workshop?
Yeah, so the prep involved Joan undertaking in Ireland interviews, and we did 2 case clinics on Zoom with several of the participants prior to the workshop. So a couple of them were introduced to some, you know, embodiment exercises, the ones you can do in a chair on a Zoom, right, for case clinic. But everybody else was, yeah, they were told that there was going to be movement, but that they would have an option to sit or stand, and that was no problem, especially because people were concerned given the level of disabilities. But that is why we were lucky to have a full day, so that the morning was just movement practice with just a little bit of context. Joan just shared the results of the stakeholder interviews and how this heavy stuck statement was arrived at, and sort of giving proof of that. And the rest of it was the normal warm-up exercises. We did not do 20-minute dance because we didn't think the people would be comfortable lying down on the floor, but we did village and stuck, and of course at the beginning sitting meditation instead. Did I answer your question, Jim?
You did.
Yeah.
So I have a quick follow-up one. I'm noticing that too with, I tend to not use the 20-minute dance. That feels more threatening to me and groups than some of the other movements. So I'm just curious if that's been your experience too.
It depends very much on the group, and it depends on the cleanliness of the floor. So sometimes it's hard to get a good floor. And what I also find difficult is the naming of some of the exercises. So I never call it the 20-minute dance, ever, 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 because people think they're going to dance. And I listened to Vasco's interview about how he tried to do the 20-minute dance in India, and they thought dance was dance and all of that. Anyway, so I don't use that name. I just say we're going to do a body-mind warm-up exercise for 15 minutes, and this is what it looks like, right? In that way, also, I don't use the word theater. You'll see in the text, you may have noticed that I dropped the word theater because I find it distracting. People think theater means we're going to act or do improv. So I just call everything social presencing. I don't use the word theater. And I find it's so hard to explain anyway, but when you then have to explain what theater in this context means, you know, so yeah, that's maybe a long-winded answer to your question, Shannon, but yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Hi.
Oh, go ahead, Annie.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
No. Hi, Michelle. I'm Denise. I'm also Canadian. I'm in New Brunswick. And we are offering a u.lab hub in our healthcare organization this year for the second time. And last year I facilitated the SPT. I'm interested to hear what you're saying about not calling it the 20-minute dance and not using the word theater. I found I did use them.
and I used humor a little bit, so for social presencing theater, when I was introducing that term and explaining the context of theater, I was saying, for those of you who have stage fright, no worries, you won't have to act. And for those of you who love to act, sorry to disappoint you, you're not going to have the opportunity. And that seemed to kind of break the ice. People seemed to relax. And we did I think we did a 10-minute dance, if I recall correctly, last year. And some who've been on the calls for a while will remember, it's in my workplace, and we had just had a change in leadership. So my former boss was there participating, and my brand new boss was there participating. And we were asking them ahead of time through email to bring a yoga mat or a blanket and to wear comfortable clothes. So I was quite nervous, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to ask my boss of the last 6 years and the boss who's only been my boss for a month to come and to have nap time. But it went fine. So that perspective for what it's worth.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, Michelle. It's nice to see you.
Hey,
and this is amazing, and to see Joan too. I was wondering if you've worked with a lot of groups, if there was something that you learned in particular from this group about introducing movement stuff, because it feels like a very particular situation.
Yeah. Because I don't work in this field like Joan does, right? I asked her a lot of questions about how do we include the most vulnerable stakeholders, and how do we enable the movement? And we discussed, are the chairs going to be good enough, or are people going to feel excluded? But especially in the morning, we had more people that participated, and it did not feel, nor did we get feedback that anyone felt excluded. The only person I did worry about was the woman who fell asleep, because intellectually I think that she was quite bored and lost simply because she didn't understand, but that was just something we had to accept and couldn't do anything about, and we hope she got a benefit from it. But yeah, we just made sure that we had, and because we were in the Disability Federation Ireland's workplace, that was their facility, it was equipped with all the proper disability design in the building, right? And most places are these days by law anyway, but it depends on what country you're in. And so, because Joan knew all the stakeholders so well, I knew going into it that it was the design of the session was going to be fine, especially because we weren't having people lie down on the floor, because some people can't get up. So that was another factor in the dirty floor, and that was the factor in no way were we going to do a 20-minute dance, right?
Have you ever, I guess I've never done this, but just started with the chair and sitting to standing? I don't know if you think that would be useful, or
I've seen, we do that on Zooms, right? On the video calls. And so I've never done it in the physical setting. And I'm generally working with corporations, and not so much in the nonprofit sector. Yeah, I work mostly in organizations but we always have multiple chairs there, so that, especially with the intergenerational workforce, so that the people who opt to sit, so they don't feel like if there's only one of them, that they don't feel like they're the only one, so that there are multiple chairs, right? And then I might sit in one facility so that someone's not alone sitting. You don't want everyone. Yeah, so I try to balance that out myself as the facilitator, to then also sit, so that at least two people are sitting in a chair if someone is uncomfortable with the movement. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
I would just add, from our experience, we had about 12 to 15 people last year doing the 20-minute dance, and I did invite people or make sure that they felt comfortable to sit if they did not feel comfortable or were not able to get down on the floor. And one woman did choose to sit, and it seemed to go fine. You know, people went off into different corners of the room, and she turned and faced the wall, so nobody was looking at her, and it was fine. I'm very curious, Michelle, you said that this actually happened a year ago. And I'm very curious to know what came from the 4D mapping in terms of prototypes. I think in the preamble, it was indicated that some prototype ideas did come.
Yeah. So I don't have the list in front of me, but they came up with a list of 10 things. And then when we went through the prioritization of those, you could see the struggle. Oh, who's going to take ownership of this? This means we have to convene our silos again together. So you could see the resistance due to the system challenges, but you could also see this hope that it would happen. And what I know from Joan is that some further action research was financed by the government to continue some of this work. And she though has left but then their funding got cut last year. And Joan has now left to do a PhD, and her PhD is focused on bringing an embodiment to disability and poverty work, actually. So she's really going to take this and expand from a research perspective. And she continues to stay connected to DFI. But I think the main success that you can kind of see is the mindset shift that occurred in those people who were speaking in short interviews. That we were so shocked when we saw the interviews. We had no idea that the day had been that powerful. And had we not seen those interviews, we would have, I think, been a little down, deflated after the session, because it didn't feel at the end, especially with the discord, well, who's going to take ownership of all these prototype ideas? And we tried to get people to prioritize, well, here's a list of 10, let's just pick 3, right? So they did end up picking 3. I don't remember which ones they were, because it's been too long, but, and whether they did those, I'm doubting that they did them because of the budget, the government budgetary cuts that occurred, which also caused Joan to depart and do something else. But yeah, my struggle with this work is that to date, I have only gone into an organization and done something like this one time and left. And so it is really hard to show that this is a practice that ideally should be embedded in the innovation process or embedded in the theory of change process in the case of a nonprofit, so that it happens regularly, because then the value. So I think, yeah, I'd be curious to hear if people have had success doing repeated work, let's say 4 times a year, SPT workshop in the same organization or something like that. That's kind of my goal, because I feel like we can't have the impact. The practice can't have the beautiful impact that it could have if these are constantly one-offs.
Michelle, I wanted just to add to what you just said. Laura Pastorini from Uruguay, she has done that in organizations, actually use it. And I think she could be a great resource for you if you'd like to have a chat with her. And also in the first, she was the first person that I interviewed in this series. And so there is a version in English and one in Spanish. So if you want to watch the one in English, she's talking about that a little bit in one of the cases that she was working with an organization. That could be a good resource. Yes. So what else? I have, kind of comments of my own. I've been taking notes that I could share later, but about everything that's has come up already. But anything else? Do you see yourself in your organization doing this? What other questions would you have for Michelle?
I have a few comments.
Oh, Rowena, sorry, I couldn't see you, so I was like, where is the voice coming from? Yes, Rowena.
Rowena Bucaro, and I don't have my my image today, as I shared. But I have a few comments more than questions. So I liked that how to approach the so-called skepticals, the holding the space and just notice and observe that they're there, but just be back in your practice. That really was a good approach, and that's a good reminder for me. Also like that the importance of having more than one facilitator, that we can have a support from someone who's on either linked with the organization or somehow. And I've experienced that is of value. And the other thing that I liked is the naming of the practice. The way you shared that you didn't use the word dance, you didn't use the theater. And so that also is a good tip for me. And sometimes when I'm explaining to people, and then I have to expand on what each one means. So that's the thing. A question that I had was when Michelle, you said that about one of the participants in the 4D mapping that you mentioned, I don't know how, I hope it was good for her. I'm wondering if there was an interview for each one of them. So there was some brief interview that we saw. And so where the question is, if we are not sure as facilitators, would we approach them and check if it was good for them and how to get a feedback from them, not just for supporting them, but also for our feedback?
Yeah, so in answer to that question, we invited everyone to share. And of course, but it was framed as, you know, the videographers here, are you interested in sharing anything on camera? So some people might have been interested in sharing off camera, but everyone who wanted to share on camera was invited to do so, and those are the videos you see. We did not have time at the end of that day to also then, and people didn't want to stay that long, right? Even the people who were on camera, they were doing this after the session had finished. So a lot of people just kind of left. But I agree with you. It is the ideal situation where you would get to speak to everyone afterwards. And it's something to put on, you know, the ideal to-do list, I would say, for sure. But in this case, we did not talk to others. Yeah. Unless Joan encountered them later on, which I don't know. Yeah.
I also like the prep that you had before, having that morning where you could have them do some practice warming up. And I find that very useful. And I'm complete.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello, Delphine from San Diego in California. I just wanted to clarify, I don't know if you said already maybe, so there were the interviews for people who wanted to share afterwards. Did you have time for a circle, like a debrief circle after the...
Yeah, we just had a closing circle, like a checkout. And also, this is a group of people that's not used to doing check-ins and checkouts. But those, again, who wanted to speak did share, not as impactfully as you see in the videos, but I think everyone was tired, but they shared that they really, for the first time, had been in a room with these multi-stakeholder organizations. Like even that, just that alone, getting those people in the room, like forget SPT, forget all of that. The fact that they convened as a group of people that cares about these same issues was just immense for them. So most of them were just thankful for that and wanted that to happen again. And the feedback that was shared was positive. We didn't get any negative feedback. I don't recall. And some people remained silent. It was also voluntary, whoever wants to speak, right?
Yeah, no, but I find it, I mean, very, insightful. See, there's the everybody sharing as a circle, of course, on a voluntary basis, where some things come out, and then there's a different perspective, the individual feedback, that in some groups of like more advanced people who've done that before, both can, I'm sure, happen in the circle, but not probably with a group of first time people who tried that for the first time and would not say those things, even probably to themselves, maybe, if it wasn't the individual interviews. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I would just share that in my workplace, we just last week had a 2-day meeting with a new group of employees who are coming together using a collective impact approach to determine what role our organization should be playing in our area with respect to social supports to help individuals experiencing poverty. So as I'm watching your example, I'm wondering whether, although this is some of my colleagues are part of it and they have experienced u.lab and SPT, but the majority of the people in this group have not. I'm now pondering whether doing some SPT with this group, given that it's just beginning and they have an important role that's supported by senior leadership. It might be very, very interesting to introduce SPT in a 4D map to see if something very different surfaces than what typically arises using our usual organizational practices and work style.
So you're welcome to show these videos because they are public now.
Okay.
So they're going to be public. I'll send the links to Mary. They're going to be published along with a blog post. Joan has already written a blog post that's on the DFI website, and I've written a blog post. I just finished editing it today. It'll be published with the links of the videos in about 2 weeks, but I'll just in follow-up send Mary the links and I'll send you the edited version as it is today, if that's useful to share if you're going to use the work. Do this work, I mean. You can kind of show an example. Oh, here, they did it with in Ireland. Don't you want to do it too?
Thanks.
Yes, yes. And I will put it, I'll let you, Christine, 1 second. I will put it with, in the YouTube channel with the recording of the session, so you can find it easily in one place. Christine?
So the fact that it was device-free and no tables, which I guess what I'm thinking is yesterday I was at a meeting where a bunch of stakeholders came together that didn't know each other, and of course there were tables and people had their devices. And I'm thinking that how much more powerful that meeting would have been if there were no tables and it was device-free. I guess, did you warn people ahead of time that, so that the people who were waiting for an important phone call just wouldn't show up? Or, did you warn people, or did you just tell them when they got to the room, that sort of thing?
They were forewarned, and they were totally free, of course, if they knew they had take a scheduled call, they just left the room, right, and did that. I mean, we just encouraged people to not use the device on a break, and most people chose that option, but we didn't police it in any way. Yeah.
And okay, and most of them didn't use it then, right?
That's correct, especially not in the room. Like, we said, experiment with doing a device-free break. I'm sure that I wasn't watching, right? I don't know how many actually remained device-free during the breaks or during lunch, but when they were with the group, they were device-free. So if they left, either they were smoking or using their phone, I don't know.
Okay. So thank you, Christine, again for that question. So it's the time, it's 10 minutes before the hour, and I just want to let Michelle go on with her day. And I just, as a way of closing, I feel that I think for us is when we share this work with other people, especially people that don't have any knowledge or even like used to working with the body, I think it's very important, especially for us, what are each of these exercises for? And what are we really trying to assist them in the process of what the whole group wants to do? Like, you know, like for example, the 20-minute dance, what is it for? Whether, and that will actually help me decide whether I use it or not, or how do I frame it and all these things, whether it's in the floor or in the chair and all that. Just briefly, for me, the 20-minute dance is the essence of the work. So it's the essence of the you. How do we suspend judgment with our own body? How do we redirect the attention to ourselves, to our own system? How do we do the presence in where we rest in that space of not knowing where's the next movement coming from, and then following that movement into the end? To me, it's a mini you, one after the other. So for me, doing a 20-minute dance is almost paramount every time I will do it. But so that's why I feel that is also, I love this idea of using the words that will actually work with the people, instead of actually distracting them from what they want to do. So, well, thank you, Michelle. This was a lovely conversation. I love that you brought the video, because that also helped illustrate way more, and we got into the conversation right away. So thank you for coming in and taking the time to be with us.
Thank you as well. Yeah, and I'll put the link to my website, because I am writing avidly either the case study, or when I can do video, I'm doing video. So I have probably 10 pieces up now, and another video is coming soon. I'm doing this in a University of Toronto class of 80 people who will model do a 4D map on a collaboration in the workplace stuck. So that's coming up later in October, and that's going to be filmed, and so that could be interesting. So I'll share that, and that all goes on the website, so you can see any of the historical ones. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Sorry to have to leave early.
Yes, so thank you. And if somebody wants to stay a little longer for another 7 minutes, I'm going to stay till the end of the hour. So we'll let you go, Michelle. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Well, thank you. This was really, really wonderful. So I don't know if somebody else, if people want to stay, we have about 7 minutes. Anything else that came up? Anything else that I could be useful with?
I would like to share that what I felt identified with many sensations and many regarding the work itself, and the social field, the construction of the social field, because some people sometimes are like skeptic, like the case that she told us, and it's when one is a little bit insecure, it's like our self-esteem is go down, and it's very difficult to be strong, to lead and to facilitate this kind of processes. So for me, it was very important to have this conversation and share this, as we don't feel so alone with the work we are doing in our sites. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria Florencia. Yeah, that's great. And this is the reason why this whole, every Tuesday sessions are for. I feel it's a way for me to gather people from all over the place and learn from each other how to use, because this is the thing, we do a 2-day workshop and we fall in love with the methodology and we see the meaning of it and we really want to share, but then happens what you just said, that I don't know if I could share, how do I do it? And so all these sessions are actually meant to help us get to a place to understand what the methodology is for, what does it do, and what, you know, because I feel that when we know those things, it's easier to just get over our own sense of like, it's me, the person that should share this or not. And I'm telling you, because I had to go through that. But I feel that once we understand the methodology and why is it that we do it and what is the result that people get when they do it, I feel that that in itself, it takes you almost like it's not about me anymore. It gets to a point where I'm just part of this whole process. Anybody want to share anything? You know, people that have done this with other groups, whether it's u.labs or in their own workplaces, that want to share something, a story or anything?
Well, Mary, I was just thinking as Michelle spoke about her colleague Joan and how helpful it was to have an ally there and all, I was thinking from my own experience last year, you were my ally and I could never have done it without you. You know, you were so generous with your time and your expertise and in helping me to plan for the 4D map. Once I was able to share the scenario and who the kind of the case giver would be, and then it went well. And you know, someone said to me afterwards, "Wow, like, you know, have you done this before?" And I was like, I said, it's totally, the success was due to the support through Mary and you know, this hub and so on. It was the training and the support that, although I was of course very nervous, but I couldn't have done it without the incredible support that that you provided. So just so that everybody knows that that is available and it's priceless.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, I must say, I mean, for me, that I guess today is a very critical call in that regard, because at the same time, I've never facilitated the 4D mapping, even though I was part of an a u.lab S group, but we never got to that point actually. So what has been coming to my mind over this whole process and today is, again, you know, there's a lot of things that there's prerequisites basically. I mean, if you just try to jump into 4D mapping a cold turkey, no. So there's things to prepare, and I'm not super clear what that would be. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I mean, how would I, you know, presume to even do it? But then, I mean, at the same time, what I'm hearing as well, I mean, there is some support, and there is, you know, people can help you think about it and yeah, get ready. So that there's both. Thank you.
Absolutely, yes. Shannon, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out, there's, at least on the Slack platform, there's a space where you can ask questions for SPT, because I know everything doesn't neatly fit into the Tuesdays. Sometimes something comes up. So that's the Hub Host Slack platform.
Yes, if you are hosting a hub, that is available, it's true. And I actually need to get on that and see if there are questions. I haven't
looked today.
Say that again?
It's okay right now. I just looked today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
There's a place on the Presencing site too, the discussion board. I think there's a spot there too.
Yes. Yes.
I had a conversation with my hub host just recently. I can't participate in our October hub. I have a conflict, and so I've encouraged them, and I think they are willing to do the intro to SPT for the hub and to facilitate the 20-minute dance. And I mean, I have slides that I used last year and so on, and we'll be meeting this week to plan it. But one of my colleagues said, well, why don't we just not do the 20-minute dance and we just do duck? And I'm interested, I was very interested to hear what you said just now, Mary, about that, because I felt a strong resistance. I said, no, I think it's really important to do the 20-minute dance. For me, I can understand. I mean, I certainly felt, as I shared already, a bit anxious and uncomfortable about how my colleagues would react to coming to a work-related meeting and being asked to lie on the floor.
Yes.
But yet, on the other hand, it's individual. You don't need to interact with anybody, and so I feel it's a gentle introduction, and most people say that it feels really good.
Just want to add something, even though it's the time. I don't mind staying a couple more minutes. I feel that again, if the group are really, really not into like, I feel that for one thing, as a facilitator, I usually am the first one that lies on the floor, and from the floor I speak about what is going to happen. So I say we're going to do an exercise that has to do with mindfulness of body. And the way we will do it is I invite you to lie on the floor first, because this is a developmental kind of developmental human, like how we actually move. We start on the floor and I just lie down. And how this space looks for us when we are born, this is what we know of the world. And as time goes on, then we get some sense of strength and we sit up. But then this is our relationship with the world from sitting right here. Then we start moving, wiggling, and somehow at some point we stand up. And when we stand up, it's a complete different relationship with the space. And when we stand up, then we start walking. So this is kind of the development of being a human being, which is what we're working with when we do SPT. And so that is one thing. And so the cleanliness of the floor, if I see that it's not clean and I actually have the time, I sweep it myself. And for example, there was one, I did a 3-hour workshop in Neuquén. I was in the south of Argentina. And it was in a place where people, they do like what's the word in English? Small enterprises and things like that. There was like a center where people will go and do, workshops about a lot of different things that will help them with their, enterprises and things that they're doing. So it wasn't like a dance, or a yoga center that usually the floors are clean. So I actually, with my friends that were helping organize, we grabbed a broom and we were cleaning the floor in front of the people. And I just said, don't worry, there is a reason why we're doing this. And so this is the thing. I feel that the more confident we can feel ourselves, the more confident people will actually feel. So if you feel like, okay, don't worry, you're gonna understand later on why this is happening. So then after you lie down on the floor first, and then I never had somebody that said, no, I'm not gonna lie on the floor. But if they do, I say it's fantastic. You can start it from the chair. So the thing of lying on the floor also is just to say a sense of letting go. So you can do it from the chair. Just put your body in a way where you can let gravity take you, which is usually what the earth does. The earth sustains us and contains us. So just to have that experience as well. And from the chair, you can start letting your body move. So it doesn't have to be on the floor completely either. And that's the case for if there is a meeting and if there is a table in front. So then from your chair, just have a sense of the grounding, sense of the feet planted on the floor, your bottom sitting on the chair. So that sense of the connection with gravity, how do we feel it? And from there, let your body move, and just this alternation between movement and stillness, even if you just say that part already, because the other thing that happens in the 20-minute dance, and that's why I feel that is paramount, people get the experience of Ma. So I think everybody in this room understands what Ma is. It's a sense of space from where everything arises. So that's the other thing that people in the 20-minute dance, they get to see the entire SPT in my understanding. And so when you get that sense of really connecting with the body and listening and noticing where the movement comes from and where does it end and how this shape feels now. Okay, from there, where's the next movement wants to arise, and then you find it, and then you follow it, and then you stay. So now what does this shape feels like? And so when they get that sense of what's priming, if you want to call it, when they do a stuck, they already know that. So you don't have to do so much emphasis in listening to your body, because they already have at least one sense of it. And when they do a 4D mapping, they already know that they're not going to get up and move. They're going to feel the body. Where is the movement want to arise? And then feel it individually and then collectively. So blah, 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 blah. Lots of words over there.
Beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Thank you.
Anything landed, but
Great words.
this is where I feel that understanding why we do what we do and what is it going to somewhat cause in the others. So even they don't understand it at the beginning, but we know where we're going and we are confident about it, then they're going to follow us, and then they're going to find out later. Okay, great. That was 6 minutes after. So I feel if there, just let's take a moment, just even one couple of 5 seconds, and really notice our body and where we are right now. And as a way of closing, what is one word that comes up for you right now about your experience of this last hour? And then please share it. And that way we'll close it.
Rejuvenated.
Rejuvenated, thank you.
Replenished.
Replenished.
Re-energized.
Re-energized.
Possibility.
Possibility.
New ideas.
New ideas, yes.
This is Joanna. Re-inspired.
Re-inspired, yes. Wonderful. And I have 2 words, collective movement. So thank you. Yes, Susanna?
Yeah, discovery.
Discovery, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna just end with this, unless I missed somebody. I think everybody got to say something, right? Okay. This was the 8th edition of the SPT Speaker Series. I will see you next Tuesday, whoever wants to come, and the session is about working with the interior condition of the intervener. And I think those are the sessions where I spend a little more time about working with ourselves as facilitators. Okay, so wonderful. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mary.
I will share the video in my YouTube channel. So, and then I'll post it in my page. So that's kind of what I've been using this lately. Bye-bye.
Thank you.